It's Friday, October 5th, 2012, and let's talk about what happened this week over at XDADevelopers.com. First off, some update news, and realistically there wasn't a whole lot out there in terms of Android updates this week, but I'm not complaining. Thanks to XDA senior member Cianto1997, who brought us a port of Windows 7.8 to the HTC Radar, there are now ports of Windows Phone 7.8 to the HTC Pro, the HTC Arrive, and the HTC Spark, which is the US version of the HTC Trophy. The ports for the Arrive and the Pro do have a couple of bugs with them, specifically having to do with the home screen, picture tile sizes, and marketplace icons and things like that. Really, it doesn't sound like anything that's a daily driver killer kind of thing. Something to the effect of if you make a tile smaller, you can't make it bigger again. As far as the ROM for the HTC Spark, it seems that it's got a lot more features. It's a lot closer to being daily driver ready, I guess if you'd want to call it that. However, it did not come with a bug list. So if you are using any of these devices and you're interested in running Windows Phone 7.8 on them, head on over to the thread, find out all the details, see if it works for you, as always. Now, an interesting little tidbit of news that's not exactly Android related, although it kind of is. As I've told you guys a couple of times in the past, I'm now rocking the Galaxy Nexus and loving it. And as I've also told you a few times in the past, HP essentially disowned webOS a while back. They decided they were going to open source it, give it up, not do anything else with it, give it to the community, and then we didn't really hear anything else from it until recently when they actually did open source it. Well, now thanks to the webOS ports team, there is now a port available, albeit an early one and not one that I would consider daily driver-esque, for the Galaxy Nexus. Yes, you can now run webOS on your device, an open OS on an open platform. That's awesome. They also went so far as to release the source code and build instructions and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And I'll say it's something that I really want to do, but I don't know if it's something I'm going to be able to do because this is my daily driver phone and I don't want to be without it for an extended period of time that I might potentially break it. I guess the next big thing is somebody going to grab a hold of this and make it dual bootable with Android? Because that would be pretty awesome in my opinion. I know webOS is a bit lacking, but this is really the essence of the open source community. They take a project that's been abandoned, that's been neglected, that's been open sourced and forgotten about, and they make it into something useful. They rebuild it, they repair it. We can make him better and stronger and faster, the $6 million open webOS. I will say, it would be very cool if there was a way to maybe integrate some of the features from webOS into Android. One of the biggest things that I love about webOS and about RIM's Playbook OS is the way that they handle multitasking. Multitasking on Android I am not a fan of, and maybe that's just me, but when you hit that little recent apps button, that's not the same thing as what you get on Playbooks OS or on the webOS. Derped out for a second there, sorry. But no, when you can swipe up from the bottom and see all of your open and running tasks and then swipe between them and choose the one you want to have going, have other things running seamlessly in the background and not have it be an app specific, you must implement these certain things to keep backgrounding open, that's a very cool feature, I have to say. On my BlackBerry Playbook at one point, I was actually watching a video. I could swipe up and go over to the marketplace and view apps. I could go up and go over to my podcast and listen to those, go back to the web browser and be running full 1080p flash, full screen, beautiful stuff that's not actually laggy or anything. That's how multitasking is supposed to work on a mobile device. Anyway, rambling a little bit there, that's just the kind of thing I would like to see brought into Android. And if that's not doable, webOS on the Nexus might be another option. But then again, you get into that part of you have a really decent OS that has good features but doesn't have any software for it. Yeah, that's always been the downfall for me about webOS and Playbook OS is there's not enough good software for it. There's not the multitude of software you get for Android and unfortunately for iOS as well. So anyway, interesting port, interesting to see it coming to an Android device, specifically the Nexus, because honestly, I would foresee them going to the Nexus 7 next, and that would be an amazing thing to see. That actually might make me pick up a Nexus 7, just so that I could flash back and forth to get the best of both worlds. Now, another couple of things to make your device a little more useful, if you're using an Android device specifically, I thought I'd just talk about a couple of apps that got mentioned on the portal this week. First off is Gidder. Gidder is a Git server for Android, and if you're not familiar with Git, you might be interested in learning about it. We have talked about it in the past on here, and we've, I think, talked about it in a couple of other videos. Maybe Adam talked about it. Git is a version control system. It allows you to take your source code, or really anything that you're wanting to manage. If you have files that you want to keep track of version control on, and you push them to a central server. Well, in this case, you have them on the device as the server, and you can serve them out to people. You can push them out to other places. You can pull them from other places. Just anything you could normally do with Git, you could now do from your device. And that's actually thanks to an XDA forum member named Ollie Yofei. Gonna pronounce that terribly, don't care. So if you're interested in learning more about having Git on your Android device, go ahead and head on over to the application thread and take a look. And you know, if Git's not quite your thing, you may be interested in running an FTP server on your Android device. I know Adam has talked in the past about running an HTTP server on your device and actually serving a website from a device. His website is currently being served from his old Samsung Captivate device. But now, if you want the added insecurity of having FTP on your device as well, you can do that. Although looking a little closer at the article, you can also run FTP over SSH, which is also known as SCP, which has set level of security on top of it. This app, called FTP Server Ultimate, was written by XDA senior member The Muzz, and looking at it even more closely, it actually seems like something that would be really useful for people who are on newer versions of software like Android 4.0 and 4.1, where they only have MTP, and you cannot actually connect to it on Linux without doing a significant amount of work to make it work correctly. I know there are other ways to do it, there's AirDroid and there's other things like that, but having SCP directly where you can connect to it natively from the file system would be really nice. So I may be taking a look at that myself. If you're interested in running an FTP, or please don't run FTP, use SFTP instead, server on your device, head on over to, again, the application thread and read on up on it. And lastly, just a bit of update news for XDA. If you haven't seen it already, there were 3 other videos put out this week. First, Lance put out a video on Tuesday that was an app review of Nokia Drive, basically sort of picking on Apple's new iOS maps and how they take you to the movie theater when you're trying to find a restroom or something like that. The title of the article was something like, "Don't Get Directed into a Lake with Nokia Drive." On Wednesday, Erica put out another excellent video talking all about the difference in screen types between AMOLED and LCD and the different devices that have them, giving demonstrations of the different pixel types. Lots of good information there. And on Thursday, TK put out an app review for AnyTAG NFC, the app that I actually talked about a little while back. Very useful stuff, especially he was able to give good demonstrations and show off the fact that you don't have to have brand new tags. You can even do it using some of your credit cards that have NFC built into them, which I think MasterCard PayPass has that in there, and he mentioned Chase Freedom or something else like that. So you can actually use existing devices. Watch all of these 3 videos if you are interested in any of them, and let the video creators know what you think of them. That's going to be all for me for today, though. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.